What if I told you the most powerful thing you could do after she walks away is nothing, not calling, not chasing, not explaining, just silence? Would you believe me if I said that silence can echo louder in her mind than 1,000 desperate words ever could? Because this isn't about playing games. It's not manipulation. It's not petty revenge. This is about reclaiming power, your power, the kind forged in emotional discipline, shaped by stoicism and fueled by a calm so cold it burns. This is the story of a man who gave everything, his time, his presence, his loyalty, to a woman who didn't value it. She walked away, and he shattered, but he didn't run after her. He didn't beg. He didn't try to fix something that was already broken. He sat in the silence, in the wreckage, and from that silence, he began to rebuild, not for her, but for himself. He didn't construct a wall out of pain. He built a fortress out of clarity, out of purpose, out of rebirth. Because here's what most people don't understand. Energy never lies, and women, whether they admit it or not, are deeply attuned to that energy. The moment you stop chasing, the moment your validation disappears, something shifts in her. She begins to notice the absence, the void you leave behind, and it starts to haunt her, not because of arrogance, not because you're trying to hurt her, but because your silence forces her to feel something she didn't expect: doubt. Suddenly, she's wondering if you've moved on, wondering why the man who once made her the center of his world now walks through life like she's just a distant memory. She checks her phone, no messages. She watches her stories, no views. She posts something, half hoping you'll respond. But nothing. That absence weighs more than presence ever could. And that's when the questions come. Was I wrong? Did I underestimate him? See, most guys panic when a woman pulls away. They send long texts, write apologies, try to reason with emotion. But all that noise only validates her decision. It tells her, I still need you to feel complete. But you chose a different path. You didn't react. You didn't plead. You went silent, not out of spite, but out of strength. Because the truth is, emotional control is the highest form of power. Stoicism isn't about not feeling. It's about mastering the feeling, not letting it master you. When you go silent, you do something most people can't. You surrender the need to be seen, and instead choose to be still. And in that stillness, you become magnetic, mysterious, powerful, a man who doesn't need to be chosen to feel worthy, a man who doesn't hand over his self-worth to someone else's approval. At first, she may act like it doesn't matter. She might play it cool. But behind that surface, behind the facade, is confusion. Because you broke the pattern, you're not doing what every other guy does. You're not chasing, you're not desperate, you're gone, present in your own world, absent from hers, and that absence becomes louder than any words you could have said. The silence you give her isn't a punishment. It's a message. It says, I respect myself too much to chase someone who walked away. I'm not here to beg, I'm here to rebuild. I'm not reacting, I'm rising. And that's when the reversal begins. The power dynamic flips. Because she no longer feels in control. She feels uncertain. And uncertainty is the birthplace of curiosity. And curiosity, when left unanswered, leads to reflection. Reflection leads to regret. She doesn't miss your texts. She misses the version of herself that felt adored. She doesn't miss your calls. She misses the comfort of your attention. But now she doesn't get it. Now you've moved into silence, into strength, into sovereignty, and that's the true art of walking away. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in complete peace. When you stop explaining yourself to people who never really listened. When you stop justifying your worth to someone who only saw your presence as convenience. You step into a new version of yourself. One that's unshakable. One that's no longer ruled by who stays or who leaves. So if you're tired of being broken, tired of giving your energy to someone who didn't earn it, remember this. The first step to power isn't a speech. It's silence. The kind of silence that doesn't scream revenge, but whispers evolution. Let her wonder. Let her question. Let her scroll through your social media, searching for signs of who you've become. And when she finds nothing, no clues, no cracks, no desperate breadcrumbs, that's when she'll realize the man she walked away from didn't disappear. He transformed. So if you're ready to reclaim your strength, to rebuild your identity, to rise in silence, this is your path. Don't chase what walks away from you. Don't explain yourself to those who made you feel unheard. Be the calm in your own storm. And when they look back, let them see nothing but a closed door and a man who never needed to be saved. She thought she knew how this would go. The same tired pattern. She pulls away, you chase. She grows cold, you start apologizing. That's how it always worked, at least with every guy before you. But not this time. Not with you. You didn't flinch. You didn't chase. You didn't even offer an explanation. You simply stepped back and let the silence speak. And that was the twist she never saw coming, because she was following a script in her head. The one where her distance triggers your desperation, where her coldness earns your warmth. But instead of feeding that cycle, you broke it. In psychological terms, this is what's known as a pattern interrupt. Her mind was ready for a reaction. She didn't get one, and now her brain scrambles to make sense of the silence. Why didn't he chase me? Was I not worth it? Did I misread everything? Now she's the one filled with questions. Now she's the one seeking validation. She's no longer in control of the game because you took yourself out of it. And in doing so, you flipped the entire dynamic. This isn't manipulation. This isn't about playing her emotions. This is you, mastering your own. You're not reacting because you no longer need to react. That is unsettling for someone who thrives on emotional chaos. When she realizes she can't push your buttons anymore, that you've taken the entire control panel and thrown it away, the game ends. You've stopped being a participant in her performance. And here's the truth that most never learn. Real attraction lives in contrast. People want what feels just out of reach. When you stop chasing her, she starts chasing the idea of who you used to be. When you stop needing her validation, she begins to wonder why yours meant so much in the first place. Now you are the variable, the mystery, the one she can't quite read. And in the world of attraction, mystery is magnetic. She begins replaying your last words, reanalyzing your silence, filling in the blanks with her own fears and fantasies, all because you chose peace over performance. You didn't ghost her, you didn't play games, you just stopped trying to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it. Number 3, rejection is redirection. Maybe she ghosted you, maybe she said it was over. However it happened, it hit you in the gut, like a punch you didn't see coming. Rejection has that kind of weight. It makes you question yourself, your value, your choices, your effort. But here's what Stoicism teaches at its core. What happens to you is never more powerful than how you respond to it. Rejection isn't destruction, it's redirection. A brutal, unfiltered sign that where you were investing your heart wasn't where it would grow. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't leave you behind. Maybe she set you free. You thought she was your peace. But what if she was your distraction? This pain you're feeling, this silence, this void, it's not weakness. It's fuel. It's the spark that lights the forge. Because real strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from collapse. It comes from standing alone, with nothing but your own breath and belief. Rejection strips away illusion. It reveals who truly values you and who never did. And once you see clearly, once the fog is gone, something in you changes. You stop settling. You stop chasing. You stop pouring yourself into someone who would rather hold a cup with holes. This is the pivot. This is where the pain becomes purpose. You stop trying to get her back, and you start getting you back. You redirect. You rebuild. You hit the gym. You grind in silence. You kill every distraction that once clouded your path. You become unrecognizable, not because you want her to notice, but because you refuse to be the man she left behind. She thinks she rejected you, but what she really did was awaken the version of you who never needed her to begin with. And that version? He's unstoppable. Number 4, the weight of regret. She thought walking away would be easy, that you'd hurt for a while, maybe send a few desperate texts, maybe spiral for a bit, and then eventually disappear just like the rest. But instead, she got something much more powerful. She got silence, not passive silence, not angry silence, surgical silence, the kind that says, I heard you, I just don't need to respond. And that silence, it lingers. It echoes in her mind like a question without an answer. It loops like a song she can't turn off. Because silence without closure always leads to one thing: regret. At first, she'll feel free. She'll feel empowered, like she made the right choice. But time has a way of peeling back those illusions. Impulses fade, the noise fades, and what's left behind is reflection. She starts scrolling through old photos, rereading old messages, replaying the memories she once dismissed. And the silence? It gets louder. Every day you don't reach out is another day she realizes you're no longer orbiting her world. And that void, it starts to weigh on her, heavier than she expected. She expected drama, she expected pleas. Instead, she got peace. And that's rare, that's powerful, that's unforgettable. You didn't try to explain. You didn't try to fight for someone who wasn't fighting for you. You let her go, quietly, decisively. And the full weight of that decision doesn't land on you. It lands on her. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. When the attention fades, when the options dry up, when the silence becomes deafening, that's when she remembers, not just who you were, but how you made her feel and how she threw it away. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove her wrong. You don't need closure, because regret is its own punishment. And silence is what delivers it. Real power doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg for attention. It just is. And when you finally stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing her, pleading with her, reacting to every emotional shift, that's when the power dynamic flips completely. In the beginning, she had it all: your time, your focus, your energy. You revolved around her like she was the center of your universe. But when you stopped feeding that system, it collapsed, quietly, instantly. She expected resistance. What she got was release. And this is where most men get it wrong. They think regaining power means proving something, flashing money, flaunting success, forcing jealousy. But the real flex isn't noise, it's indifference. Not because you feel nothing, but because your feelings no longer control your actions. That's stoicism, that's discipline, and that is terrifying to someone who used to pull your strings like a puppet master. Now she feels the shift, because you're no longer where she left you. You're not sitting in the ruins. You're not waiting around, hoping she notices. You've redirected all that energy into yourself, into your purpose, your health, your growth. And even if she doesn't say it, even if her lips stay silent, her instincts are screaming. She feels it. She senses it. She knows something is different. You're not emotionally available on her terms anymore. You're emotionally free. And here's the truth nobody tells you. Detachment is power. When you want nothing, when you need nothing, you become invincible. And when you stop needing her validation, she starts craving yours. Not because of manipulation, not because of some twisted game, but because you've become rare, unbothered, solid, in control. Most men react. You reflected. Most men beg. You built. And that shift, that quiet transformation, that's what flips the entire script. You're not running from the pain anymore. You're mastering it. You're not suppressing emotions. You're commanding them. And that control, that calm, it speaks volumes. She hears it, even when you say nothing at all. Number 6, she watches even in silence. She may not text you, she may not call, her name might not pop up on your phone, but don't be fooled. She's watching, quietly, closely. Maybe not through direct messages or heart emojis, but through mutual friends, anonymous accounts, old photos. Every digital crack where curiosity can slip through. Because the one thing she never expected was this, your silence, and worse, your consistency in that silence. At first it was curiosity, then concern. Now it's obsession wrapped in restraint. You're not feeding her ego anymore. You're not giving her that sweet validation that said, you still matter. No, you're doing the one thing more powerful than rage or sadness. You're moving on, calmly. You didn't collapse. You didn't spiral. You evolved, and that wasn't supposed to happen. Here's the part of psychology that cuts deepest. People don't regret losing you when you're broken. They regret it when you're glowing, when the version of you that once adored them now gives that same energy back to himself. When your peace becomes louder than your pain, that's when they feel it, that's when they start watching, obsessively, silently. And it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Calm, focused, collected, unshaken. That energy, it burns deeper than any words ever could. She won't comment, she won't like your photos, but she's watching, refreshing, wondering, asking herself the one question she can't escape. Did I lose the man who would have changed everything for me? And with every picture of your growth, every sign of your discipline, every second of your peace, the silence screams louder. Because she's no longer part of your future. She's just a chapter you outgrew. Let her watch, let her wonder. You're not performing, you're not pretending, you're just living, fully, powerfully, quietly. Number 7, scar tissue is armor. Heartbreak doesn't just sting, it scars. It brands you deep, permanent, invisible to others, but heavy under your skin. Every scar has a story, a moment where you bled for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. And yes, it changes you. But not all change is damage. Sometimes the wound becomes the wisdom. The heartbreak becomes the blueprint. The pain becomes the pressure that forges steel. You didn't just survive. You rebuilt. Scar tissue doesn't make you weaker, it makes you stronger, not colder, clearer, more deliberate. You now know what emotional chaos feels like, and you'll never let someone drag you back into it again. She thought leaving would break you, but all it did was sharpen your edge. The man who got hurt, he's gone. In his place stands someone more calculated, more focused, more in control. Someone who's not afraid to walk away because he's already walked through hell and came out stronger. That kind of strength doesn't roar. It doesn't flex. It doesn't need revenge. It just exists. And everyone around you feels it, especially. Her stoicism teaches this. Pain is not just a wound. It's a weapon, not to hurt others, but to protect yourself. Your heartbreak is no longer your identity. It's your training. You wear your scars like armor now, not shame. So no, you're not the same man she left. You're the man she never thought you'd become. And that realization cuts deeper than anything you could have ever said. Number 8, when detachment becomes desire. She expected emotion. She expected anger, hurt, maybe even desperation. She expected some kind of signal that she still lived in your heart. What she didn't expect was detachment. Not bitterness, not passive aggression. Just peace. Just calm. And that calm, it's confusing. Because detachment doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you stopped needing to care. You stopped proving. You stopped performing. And in doing that, without even trying, you became more desirable than ever. You're no longer trying to be chosen. You're choosing yourself. And nothing is more attractive than someone who is whole without needing anyone to complete them. Your silence, your distance, your evolution. It all says the one thing she never expected to hear from you again. I don't need you anymore. Not in anger, not in spite, but in full acceptance. And when a man reaches that point, true emotional freedom, he becomes magnetic. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because he's already gone. Closing statement, call to action. If you're walking this path now, if you've chosen peace over pleading, detachment over drama, silence over shouting, then know this: you're not just moving on, you're rising. And that silence, that's your strength. Let them wonder. Let them watch. Let them regret. You're not chasing anymore, you're becoming. If you feel this, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. My silence is my power. I'm done chasing. Because the best revenge is not revenge at all. It's silence and success and peace. See, most guys lean in when a woman pulls away. They overcompensate, they over-explain. They operate from fear, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being forgotten. But not you. You didn't. Lean in. You leaned out. You leaned into yourself, into your discipline, into your mission, into your growth. And that shift in energy, grounded, calm, unfazed, is rare. It's magnetic because it shows something powerful. You're not controlled by her attention. You're governed by your purpose. That's the polarity shift. When you detach, you flip the emotional current. Instead of trying to win her back, you become the thing she starts chasing without even knowing why. Not because you're trying to seduce her, not because you're playing games, but because you've become immune to the chaos that once had you tied in knots. And that immunity, it radiates, it draws her in. Now she's thinking about you again, wondering why she still cares, wondering why your absence stings more than your affection ever did. She won't say it, she may not show it, but your silence weighs heavier than your words ever could. You're not chasing, you're not waiting. You're simply present, unmoved, and that self-contained power, that grounded masculine stillness, creates a pull she never anticipated. Because desire doesn't grow in suffocation, it grows in space, and detachment isn't distance, it's depth. You stopped orbiting her, and now she's drawn to your gravity. That's what happens when you become whole on your own. That's when desire shows up, not because you asked, but because you no longer need number 9, the revenge of reinvention. Revenge doesn't always roar. It doesn't always flex. It doesn't need an audience. Sometimes the most devastating revenge is quiet evolution. The kind that doesn't ask if she sees it, because it doesn't need her to. Reinvention starts in pain. You hit the gym because you need somewhere to place the ache. You read because your mind won't shut off. You work on your goals, not to show off, but because standing still hurts more than the grind. But somewhere along that path, the fire changes. It stops being about her. It stops being about proving something. It becomes about you, pure, focused, internal. That's when reinvention begins. You stop building from pain and start building from clarity. You wake up earlier. You move with intention. You lead with calm. Not to impress, but because it's who you are now. And even if she doesn't say a word, she notices. The energy is different. You're not the same man she left. The broken version of you, gone. Replaced by someone who doesn't seek validation, because he is the validation. That version of you hits different, because it's not reactive. It's not a mask. It's not performative. It's forged in silence, rooted in truth, built in solitude, and she realizes, maybe too late, that she never really knew you. Not this version. Not the man who rose from the rubble without bitterness, without apology, without turning back. That's the real revenge. Not her crawling back. Not her watching from the sidelines. But you, not caring. Not because you're cold, but because you're free. Reinvention isn't about erasing the past, it's about owning it. and evolving beyond it, and no one can take that from you. Number 10. You were the storm, not the shelter. She thought you were safe, predictable, the guy who would always be there, always say yes, always catch her when she fell. You were her shelter, her emotional insurance, her fallback plan, and then you weren't. When she left, something inside you broke, but instead of staying broken, you rebuilt. Not softer, not safer, stronger, sharper, colder. You didn't become the man who waits. You became the storm she never saw coming. You stopped being a sanctuary for someone who didn't protect your peace. You stopped answering late-night texts. You stopped decoding mixed signals. You stopped holding space for someone who never held yours. And that choice didn't make you heartless. It made you unstoppable, because now your presence isn't about comfort. It's about command. The man she knew, emotionally available, predictable, easy to read. The man you are now, unshakable, grounded, untouchable. You don't get pulled into chaos, you walk away from it. That's the storm. Controlled force, quiet, power, passion without dependence. You didn't just survive the pain, you used it. And that energy, that transformation, it can't be faked, it can't be copied. It demands respect. She remembers you as the man who cared too much. Now she feels the void where that care used to live. And there's no shelter left in you, no softness to run back to. You're not the man she ran from. You're the man she can't reach anymore. That's the full circle. Not because you hate her, not because you're bitter, but because you finally understand your value. You were never the backup plan, never the side quest, never the safety net. You were the storm. You just forgot for a while, but now you remember, and you're never going back. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain, because you already did all that. And it got you nowhere. This time, you did something different. You went silent. You chose strength over emotion, discipline over desperation, peace over performance. And that silence, it changed everything. She felt it, she questioned it, she watched. As you rebuilt without her, that's not a tactic, that's not a game, that's evolution. Stoicism isn't about being numb. It's about not being ruled by chaos. It's about knowing your worth so deeply. You never trade it again for temporary comfort. What does she feel when you don't chase her? Everything: confusion, doubt, regret. But you don't need her to feel anything. You already won. The moment you let go without losing yourself, this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your rise. Let her wonder, let her regret, let her drown in the silence she created. You've got better things to do, a better life to build, a better man to become. If this message hit home, hit that like button. Subscribe for more unshakable truth. Turn on notifications so you never miss what's next, and drop a comment below. I don't chase, I rise. Thanks for watching Stoicism. Stay sharp, stay calm, stay untouchable.